Hello, hello. Welcome to today's dream, tomorrow's reality, my podcast that I'm so in love with, and I hope you are as well. So, the only thing that I ask for you is to stay for the full episode and to remember to like, subscribe, share, and as you get value from this, please put something in the comments, ask a question, and we'll come back and look at it, no matter where it is that you're signing in from. And so today I have a special guest, Viki, and I'm not even going to try to pronounce your last name. I know I'll butcher it, so I'm not even going to go there. But we were introduced by a mutual acquaintance, a friend of mine that said, Viki, with the things that you do, I think this would be a great fit for you to have on your podcast. And so I talked to her for just a minute and I said, oh, yes, definitely. I want to talk to her. So here we are. So, Viki, you go ahead and tell them your last name and tell them a little bit about you, and then we'll dive in.
Well, thank you, Vicky. Thank you for inviting me to the podcast. It's a real pleasure to be here and talk to you. So the last name is pronounced Chervenkova. So
Mm,
it's a Slavic name, as I am located in Eastern Europe. So we have this Slavic background. And just a quick introduction about myself. I'm a mom, a wife, an entrepreneur. I've been in business for the last 15 years. And for the last seven of them, I started my own financial discovery journey where I had to learn everything about managing money and investing like from scratch. Because here in our corner of the world, we got access to international financial markets and investments very, very late, like in the 90s. And nobody taught us anything about money. We didn't have access to capital. We had so many financial crises that we were going through that while I was growing up, we were all surrounded by this fear and scarcity mindset that when someone decides to learn to manage money, it's really difficult because you don't know where to start. And given all that, I finally decided, okay, it is time to start because nobody is going to do it for me. And if they do it for me, like our pension system, the way it is set, it might not turn out, in the best possible way for me. So yeah, that's how I started. And then I piled up so much information. So it's been years reading and practicing, taking courses and applying what I learned. So I came to a point where I felt like now it's time to give back and to share what I've learned. So I started my blog, I started a Facebook group, and I even wrote a book, which is amazing because I've never considered myself an author. But it just felt like something that needed to be brought into this world, and I just let it come through me. So that's where I am right now, and just sharing my message and what I found along my own path to be working and to be working in a way that women can relate to.
yeah, beautiful, beautiful. So, I will share, even though in the US where I'm located, had access to a lot, but there are still people that have a really big scarcity mindset, I think that's just worldwide, it doesn't matter how many opportunities you've had, we inherit our beliefs from our parents and their parents, and it just kind of is handed down and generationally. And so, like in the U.S., there was the market crash, the stock market crash, and people still alive from that time, and they've handed all of that down. I remember my mother-in-law. She used to. She would even use a paper towel to dry her hands, but she would put it off to the side and let it dry again so she could reuse it.
Mm.
and Ziploc bags. It used to drive me crazy. She would wash them out and then she would put them on something so that they would dry and she could reuse them. I said, those are disposable. Oh, no, no, no. We don't waste like that, you know? And
Yeah.
it was very bizarre to me, but that's what she did because that was how she grew up. You don't waste. You save things, you reuse and not to say we're supposed to be wasteful, but to me, if something is supposed to be disposable, it's counterintuitive to be using it over and over and over again.
Yeah.
So if you don't want to be doing that, then get a towel. Use a towel. I don't know. It was just one of those things, right? And so there's a
Yeah.
lot of things that I think we do because somebody taught us to do that, right? Without even thinking. And just real quick, I remember there was and I share this with some of my clients sometimes, how we do things without even understanding why we do them. There's a
Yeah.
story, and it's probably not true. I have no idea. It's one of those fable things, right? Of a girl, a young girl's newly married, and she's going to have the family over, extended family over for Thanksgiving. And she gets the ham and she's getting the ham and cutting it in half and putting it in two pots. And she asked her mom, who's there helping, and she said, Mom, why do we do this where we put this ham in two pots? And she said, Well, I don't know. I grew up and mom always did it that way. So it just so happened mom was there, her mom was there, the young girl's grandmother. And so they went and asked her, why do we put this in two pots? And she said, Well, girls, when I first got married, none of my pots were big enough for the ham. So I would cut it in half and put it in two pots. And so they had been doing this, and teaching it down, right? But nobody knew why, but they just
Why?
did it. And I think we do that with our finances, with everything, right? We just
Yeah.
follow what we were taught without questioning. So I love, like, I was able to look at your book just a little bit this morning. And so I was able to look at that and I just shared right before we got on here. So I want to share real quick. There's one of my cats. See, there's I unblurred my background and I don't know why it's still blurred, but anyway, there's Sativa, the one that keeps getting bullied. But we have two other cats, and I'm referencing this because in her book she's talking about goddess energy, and she references another book, and the thing is that one of the goddesses that is a big goddess, I don't know if I'm even using that terminology correctly, but is Athena. And then the same name for the goddess in another country is Minerva, correct? So
Correct. Yeah.
my two other cats are identical except for one has a bobtail. They're both short hair gray cats, and I forgot their lineage, but one is Athena and one is Minerva. And they bully this other cat like crazy because they rule the roost. Even though Minerva is the youngest cat in the house, she still rules the roost. And there's a dog, we have a dog that I'm babysitting right now for my son, and Minerva and Athena, all they have to do is move a little bit slower and look at him, and he runs and yelps. So there is something impressive about this goddess energy that's happening just with these cats. And it made me think a little bit more this morning. I thought, oh, so maybe I need to be embodying my goddess energy just a little bit more effectively because I'm definitely not like Athena and Minerva are right now. I don't want to scare everybody, but I want to embody it a little bit more. So that's one of the things I got from just looking at, and I didn't get very far in the book because I didn't have much time, so I'll be reading on it some today. But I'd like to really quick, I'd like to go back to when you were really young, if you don't mind. And when you were a little girl, what was one of the most memorable, happy moments that you had?
Memorable happy moment. I would say when my father would come home after a long trip. He was a sailor, so he would be gone for months,
Mm-hmm.
going around the world, doing his job on the ship. And when he came back, he would always have these gorgeous presents for me. Like, for example, jeans at in the times when nobody else around me had this type of clothes. I mean, I'm talking about like the 80s where when we didn't have anything in the stores, let alone, fancy clothes. So my father would come home, he would have these beautiful clothes for me. He would be bringing me chocolate, which we also didn't have much of around here. And it will make me, feel so special and feel so loved because I would be missing him for such a long time. And when he comes, it's like a holiday. It's something
Yeah.
really a special occasion for the whole family.
Beautiful, beautiful. So, I know from what you just said and the little bit that I read in the book, um, there was a lot of disconnection from money and when you were young, just your country itself, not just like your lineage of what you were taught from your parents, right?
Yeah.
So there was scarcity all around you. So it wasn't like we have right now, where it's like, you can feel there's money everywhere. You may not have a handle of it. The stores are full. Even if you can't afford to go in and buy them, it's there. But that
Mm,
wasn't your experience. Your childhood it wasn't even there to, if you had all the money in your pocket, you didn't have anything to buy. Am I
exactly.
understanding
Yeah.
correctly? Yeah.
Absolutely, yes. We had the money, like everyone had pretty much the same amount of money. Everybody was earning the same amount, and people were doing pretty well given the limited choice of products in the market. Because literally there was nothing. Like we would get bananas and oranges and other exotic fruits only around Christmas, and that was the only time you could see stuff like this in the stores. So we had some money, but there was nothing to buy with
Yeah.
it. And
That's so,
then when democracy came, it actually flipped the whole thing around. And now all the stores were full of products. But then there was so many financial crises happening that people suddenly lost their money and couldn't afford to buy anything. So it was really crazy, crazy
yeah.
times.
That would be quite the shift. We've got all the money and nothing to buy, and now we've got everything to buy and not the money. What a an amazing disconnect from the energy of prosperity and money, right? It's like
Yeah, there was never the alignment,
yeah,
like never
yeah.
met.
That's wild. Because it's funny that you were saying oranges and stuff were an exotic fruit because here that it's just they're there. So it's really interesting. So exactly where is it that you are?
I'm in Bulgaria, so
Okay.
Eastern Europe. But
Okay.
what happened here actually
Hmm.
happened in most of the Balkan Peninsula and Eastern Europe. So
Okay.
after, the Second World War, we were under Russian influence. So you know, the whole of this part of Europe was experiencing pretty much the same situation.
Okay. All right. So as you get out of that situation, so when did that start kind of changing to where you've got all this stuff out here that you can see, but now you're beginning to have a little bit more affluence so that you can afford that? Did that happen, you know, a long time later, or how did that transpire?
Well, it did take some time for the whole economy to adjust, for
Mm-hmm.
people to adjust to this new way of living life, of having all of this abundance around you, and just starting to allocate your resources, your money, in a way that you can afford to buy, the things that you really want. Now, the thing is, we've all here grown up with the same mindset of we need to save a lot for rainy days because, given our history, you never know when the next financial crisis, can come around. So we're all taught to set aside, an emergency fund or a rainy day fund, whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a title, a name. And then the other thing that's very deep deeply rooted in our, I would say, it's like psychology here, is that the only investment that you are safe to make is in real estate.
Okay.
Like if we start talking about stocks, bonds, shares, funds, you can feel like people, pulling away and just looking at you like,
It's
well,
like,
what are you talking about?
Satan, step away.
Yeah, no, it's only real estate, houses, apartments, investment, real estate that you can rent out and live off from the rent. But anything else is just off the table. That's just how we think around here. So it is taking a lot of time for even the younger generations now
Hmm.
to get used to the idea that you can actually make money while we sleep by simply investing in stable, sustainable, long-term financial instruments that are now available at the click of a button. You have it in
Yeah.
your phone. You have an app that you can use to buy shares from global companies that, operate in pretty much everywhere in the world. And you can buy, a small little piece from that company and earn from its profits, in a getting a dividend. But now it's getting more and more talked about. So younger people are getting used to the idea. There is a little bit more financial literacy
Mhm.
spreading around, which is awesome, which is very much needed. And actually, recently I was invited in a city to that's a little bit far away from where I live, but I thought I need to consider really doing it. There was this woman that invited me to make a course for teenagers to understand how money works and how they can manage it and how they can invest it in the long run. And
Nice.
yeah, I'm really excited about that.
So when are you supposed to do that? Do you know?
We actually decided to postpone it for August, September after this summer break,
Hmm.
when all the students are back to school and they can start focusing on acquiring these skills, acquiring this knowledge, and why not even testing it out immediately because
Yeah.
it could be on their phone. There are some age limitations, but we'll get through that
Yeah.
when you try to buy shares and stocks, but
Oh,
that's okay.
well, I love that. So I can't wait to hear how it goes once you get that implemented because that'll be really cool. Yeah. You might
Yeah.
even have something that you can share, globally because, that is definitely something people. Like here in the US, the thing is there are a lot more younger people that are really diving into, a lot of that newer technology and becoming millionaires, before they're even out of high school. So, but, that's kind of like there's a 1%, right? So we want to be able to capture that mindset for all of them, and us adults too, because we're kind of stuck in these old beliefs that
Mm.
at least the young set, they don't have 50 years of beliefs to kind of counteract, right?
They're starting from a fresher
Yeah.
perspective. They
They got
still have a
a
lot
cleaner
to,
canvas.
yeah. Yeah, and that is a huge advantage. While they lack the experience that would make them, more mature, make better, wiser decisions, they have the opportunity to experiment. And because they have time on their side, they can experiment a lot and find their own, even if we talk about financial terms, their own financial strategy that feels aligned with their values, with their expectations, with the lifestyle that they want to lead. Because let's face it, the lifestyle of the younger generations is so much different from our generation and the generation of our parents. And I saw this meme like yesterday, I think on Facebook. It was talking about how a previous generation would work one job for 20 years. Our generation, millennials, would work 20 jobs in a year, and the next generation are just wondering why the hell do we need jobs at all?
I
I mean,
know.
right.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
these are the gaps, but it's so beautiful to watch, the differences and how we can actually work together
yeah,
to, yeah, give the wisdom for the younger generations when they don't have it and they need it, and then learn from them a whole new way of looking at life and what it has to offer.
yeah, yeah. I love that. Thank you for sharing that meme because I haven't seen that one yet.
That was funny. That was
Yeah,
really
yeah,
a
but
good one.
that is the truth. That is the truth. I don't know how many things I see on YouTube that it's like, don't get a job, do this. Don't do this, do this, right? But I do think there's a little disconnect in some of that too, because I think some people, not only just the younger generation, but some people interpret that as you don't have to do anything. You know what I mean? But what it really means is that you can be your own boss by being an entrepreneur, but you can't sit, in the living room and then money falls from the sky. It's
Yeah.
that it awakens your purpose in you. And if you take the time to meditate or to get in touch with your inner goddess, using your terminology, your inner goddess, then the inspiration for things just come. And so let me just share really quick. Yesterday, I was, I woke up and I had, I'm always doing my gratitude journal and all the stuff. And then a little bit later in the morning, I had realized that I had neglected to do something online that I needed to do. And so I think, oh, so I go and I do that. And then so I'm feeling a little bit of a pressure on myself, right? In that moment. And then I got a message from someone that said, I haven't seen anything about this. We're supposed to be doing this tomorrow. And are we still on? And then I said, wait a minute, did we even schedule something for tomorrow? And I'm looking through my notes, I'm looking at my calendar and everything. I don't see anything. I called the other person that was supposed to be with us on this, and she said, I don't see anything either. And I started really feeling this, deeper anxiety, right? So the one anxiety and then this new thing, and it was just kind of deepening. And I thought, okay, this is not going to be my day. I am not going to have this kind of day. So I went and sat and created a timer on my phone and I sat in silence for 25 minutes. And after that 25 minutes was up, it was like I felt so good. And it was like, okay, hmm, let me just go and return this email. And then I think I'm going to work on my book because I'm in the middle of writing a book. And I'll just play with the book. And as soon as I sat down and started playing with the book, it was like I lost all time, all space, and just was having the time of my life.
Mm.
But if I hadn't taken that time to just look at that and say, I don't want to have this day and gotten grounded again, then my day would have been filled with those
It will just
activities.
keep on and on.
Yeah, it would have just been this snowball of anxiety and feeling not enough, right? And so it was beautiful that I was able to stop it right there and do something different. And so I think I had this inspired action because I did get grounded. And so the main thing to me is that you can't get what you want from just sitting and doing nothing. You get grounded, you tap into that inner goddess, you really know what your purpose is and how you're moving through life or how you want to move through life. And then as you do that, then the inspiration comes, but you have to take action on that inspiration or it just goes away, right?
Yeah, 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 absolutely. And it, even if it's not, tapping into the goddess inside of you, but using different techniques, the what matters is that you get connected to your deeper or higher self,
Hmm.
whatever way you want to look at it, but then explore your values as well. Like make a list of what is meaningful to you, what makes your soul spark. And from that place, only then you can think about, yes, if you want to be an entrepreneur, what would that look like for you? What would you like to bring into this world? How do you want to change it? How do you want to change people's lives? How to serve them. But but you can only do that after you've connected to that higher purpose within you, because nowadays, especially in the online space, I'm seeing so many business opportunities that ask you to, grab the wave of AI and this and that and all the shiny objects that are out there. And people are attracted to these opportunities. They want to try something else, something new, so that they can make more money or they can, help their families. But in most of the cases, you'll find that these opportunities will not work, and not because they don't work in general, but they won't work specifically for you if you don't have the basis, the value structure, and the
Hmm.
real understanding of what you are supposed to do while you're here in this iteration on Earth.
Yeah, so like
So
building your foundation first.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
And then the opportunities will come. A lot of opportunities will come, but you need to rely a little bit more on your intuition to
Hmm.
see what resonates with your soul, what lifts you up, what enlightens you. And it's the same with finances, with your personal finances. There are so many strategies out there, and there are financial experts that, claim that investing in Bitcoin or any other digital currencies is the next best thing, and it might be. We don't know. We'll
Yeah.
see in a few years. We
Mhm.
just don't know. With finances and market, it's like that. You can only see how it did it
Right.
in the aftermath,
Yeah.
right? When you
Yeah.
look back at stuff. But none of the prophecies, none of the expectations can be 100% correct. Never
Right.
happened and never will happen.
Right, right. Yeah, they're just guessing. It's a
Yes,
best guess, you know.
yes,
Um, and that is so true. And one of the things for me is that, investing is great. And you do it at whatever level you can afford to do, right? Because the thing is that investment is a long-term strategy. It's not a short-term strategy. So you don't want to be putting money into whatever it is and then suddenly being so short that you have to pull the money back out because you might have lost half of it by then. But if you'd left it another 5, 10 years, it might have been really great, right? But
yeah,
like you said, we never know. That's why I think the best investment we can do is in ourselves and
ourselves.
our education and getting in touch with, like you said, the values. And the thing is, it's kind of like we want to make sure that our values are really expressed and we've got them written down somewhere to reflect on them from now to now because sometimes our values change over time, but it
Yep.
kind of likens me to thinking about like if you have a list of qualities in a relationship that you're looking for, and then you also have a list of qualities in the person that you're looking for that is these are the things that I will not tolerate, and these are the things I want, right? And then
Mhm.
you meet someone and they've got a few of the things you want and a few of the things that you won't tolerate, but they seem really nice and you're kind of
Yeah.
lonely. You'd love to go to dinner and you start all of a sudden you start making the things that you don't want not being so bad.
Me then.
And
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, it's like, I think I could tolerate that. I said I didn't, that was a deal breaker, but I think I could tolerate that. And you start, um, devaluing your values and letting your emotions or whatever it is gear you toward this person. And
Mm.
it's going to be a shit show, just to be, the thing, right? Um, and so I think one of the things that when we get those values is having really, really good boundaries for ourselves. It's like, okay, these are what I'm not going to tolerate. I know what they
The
are,
non-negotiables.
the non-negotiables. And as soon as I see that rear its little ugly head, you say, thank you for playing, but I'm moving on. And I think we get tested by God, the universe, or
Oh yeah.
whatever that says, you said these are your values. Well, now look at this little shiny object over here. It's a little bit outside of your values, but let's just see if she's really true to her values, if she'll dive into that. And then if you do, it's like, okay, well, just let her just go off her merry way, and nothing's going to work until she gets back to these values. And so I think once we write them down and we get solid in them, and we have this boundary of I'm not going off on a tangent. And then
Mm.
it's easier for us to look at something, whether it's an investment, a person, an idea that we have. Because
Yeah.
even just because we have an idea doesn't mean it's good for us. We have to be able to look at that too with what our values are. And so I know that you probably haven't gotten that far in your book, but I know you probably have that kind of stuff in your book. So do you want to speak on that? Because to me, that's a really big thing. Like you were just talking about the values. And I think even for your business, what are the values for your business? Because right now I'm beginning to work with a business coaching company.
Mm.
And one of the things they were asking about the values for your business and all this stuff. And I thought, oof, it was something that I hadn't really dove into. I had values for me, but I didn't
Yeah.
really have them for my business. And so it's something that's important for every area of our life, right?
Yes, yes, absolutely. And to that point, I want to share this recent experience that I had that had me testing my values and my way of viewing my business and my book and the whole program
Oh,
that I
cool.
have.
Yeah.
So I have this story. I come from 20 years background in marketing. So I've worked with individuals, companies, brands from all over the world, and I've been doing their marketing strategies, planning, and execution on a really large scale. And it has always been about the Athena archetype, strategizing, planning, KPIs, hitting the goals, all of that. So it was very masculine energy. It was a lot about advertising, getting to the right audience in this way. We lead them with this magnet and all of that, like the whole structure and funnel that we see, so often
Mm-hmm.
in marketing. And when I stepped away from this industry and I focused on the financial education industry and I wrote the book and then I sat with myself and I thought, okay, how do I want to market this book? How do I want to bring my message to the world and let more people hear about it and see if it resonates with them? And I knew for myself that I want to step away from the masculine energy and I want to tap into my feminine energy and the goddess energy, and specifically of one goddess that's also featured in the book. She's a Hindu goddess, Lakshmi, and she's the goddess of abundance and
Mm-hmm.
wealth and beauty and flow and letting things be easy and letting yourself be guided by intuition and how life unfolds, the small events step by
Mm-hmm.
step for you to see and just follow the river. So I said, okay, then let's do it this way. We'll see how it comes about. And I feel this call to start networking with people, meeting people, talking to them, especially coaches. I don't know why, but I felt very drawn to speaking with women coaches.
Hmm.
And from one conversation to the next, it led me to my first podcast guest appearance. And I never expected that. It was never in my plans, in my marketing strategy. And the first time I did it, I thought, oh, wow, that this is an amazing experience. I get to talk to people on themes, on topics that I'm passionate about, they're passionate about, and we bring this perspective to their listeners and of course to my people because I'm sharing all of these episodes
Hmm.
with my audience as well. Um, but it this kind of strategy came naturally, came absolutely organic. I
Right.
never thought about it. And then I had this moment when, my previous self showed up and said, "Okay, but you need to do some Facebook ads. You need to, make this book more popular." And okay, and I said, "Okay, let me try. Let me see where this takes me." So I spent a few dollars here and there just to test the ground. Nothing like uh, echo in the desert. Nothing. Yeah. I'm like, okay, I think the universe is testing me.
Yeah.
If I go back that way, things will not be working. So stick to what feels good and feels aligned with the way that I am now showing up in the world as the identity that I am adopting and really trying to nurture these goddess energies and goddess archetypes within me and honor them and pay respect to them and just step away from the usual way of doing stuff. So that was the way that the universe tested me, and it was like a couple of weeks ago, not so long ago. It's
Well,
amazing.
luckily you listened and you didn't keep on because it's like I say, sometimes it's if you're going off track a little bit, there'll be a little whisper, there'll be a little tap on the shoulder, there'll be a little tap here, and if you don't listen, there's a baseball bat coming, you know?
And I try to listen to my dreams. I have this pact that I made with my subconscious. Every night before I fall asleep, I would tell myself, my subconscious is my best friend and partner in my success. So I will repeat this mantra a couple of times before I fall asleep, and I would ask my subconscious to show me in my dreams, the message that it has to for me. Is
Mhm.
there something that I need to pay attention to? And let me tell you, since I started doing this practice regularly, there has not been a single night when I didn't get a message from the subconscious. I know it might sound crazy to someone, but before that, I wouldn't remember anything that I dreamt of. I wouldn't, remember any details, any elements from that dream. But after I started making this pact and asking my subconscious to show me what my inner wisdom is trying to get to the surface, to my conscious um, level of operating, since then I've been hearing very identical messages that keep me in this more feminine line of conducting my business and um, sharing my message with the world. And this is really, really awesome.
Yeah.
If anyone wants to try it, you should definitely give it a go.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. That's one of the things that since I'm a hypnotist, one of the things that I've been able to do is help people to get in touch with that space, in a hypnosis session. And they come up with some amazing things. Even, reducing the anxiety of feeling like they're in a space that they're not wanting to be, like in their business or maybe they're in a corporation, and I help them to pull that out of themselves because it's
Mhm.
all coming from inside, right? That's what your
Yeah.
subconscious is doing when you're dreaming, and giving them a lot of clarity and helping them to see what it's meaning for them, so it's beautiful. And I love that you've been able to do that as you go to sleep. I would love to do some hypnosis with you and play a little bit deeper in that, right? That would
Oh,
be
I would
fun.
love that. Yes.
That would definitely be fun, because our subconscious has so much in there. And you may already know this, but I will just share our conscious mind is only 12% of what's going on. The rest of it is our subconscious. And so all the things that we're doing, that we're thinking about doing, that masculine do, that's only 12%. When you can tap into
Mm,
that subconscious and that inner guidance, that intuition and everything, oh my gosh, there is gold there. And
yeah.
so it's amazing to be able to find a way to dig that out on your own, right? But
Yeah,
even better when you can have a little guidance, but I'd be happy
oh,
to.
for sure.
Yeah,
For
yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Like I see the subconscious as this endless, like a huge vault of
Mm,
data and information that we are simply not aware of because our mind cannot process all of the information that we come across on a daily basis. So it
right.
stores everything in the subconscious. And here's where also the goddess archetypes come in. They are
Hmm.
part of the subconscious, they are part of the collective unconscious, as Carl Jung puts it. So these are patterns of thought, of behavior, of stories, of myths that carry these timeless lessons, timeless wisdom that we all have inside. It's shared, it's collective. That's why when you read a story from a people, in the other end of the world, it resonates with you as well because it shares the same elements, the same fears, the same stages of life that we go through. And that's why they apply to everyone. Same
Hmm.
with the archetypes, personal archetypes, goddess archetypes, whatever, collective images that we want to speak about. But that's all part of the subconscious. And when you learn to get into it, and as you said, with the help of a specialist who can do make the process so much easier and more meaningful for you and save you time, of course,
Yeah,
because you
yeah. Makes it happen
you
a little
probably could,
faster.
yeah, you could probably learn how to do it, but it will take you a lot of time.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, once you get to tap into this power and extrapolate the lessons that apply to your specific situation, you can see how much more powerful your whole existence, your whole presence in this life and in this world becomes because it's backed by this timeless wisdom and this inner knowing that
Hmm.
we can now just show to the world.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That sounds beautiful. I love it. Thank you for that. And as you were talking about how our brains cannot, we can't collect all the data, right? Um, I've read this a long time ago, and I cannot even remember what book I read it in. So don't even ask anybody that's listening or watching. Um, but we actually, because everything is energy. From the lampstand to the coffee cup to everything, right? Has an energy. And so we walk outside of our house and there's energy coming from the leaves, from the clouds, from the sky, from the things on the ground, from the people, the houses, everything. And we could not absorb all of that energy because there's like 50 billion bits of information coming at us per second. But our
Wow.
brains will only work with 2,000 bits of information. So it has to filter it out. It has to
Mm.
know, okay, what do I need to be absorbing? What do I need to see? And that's why you can put two people in the same space and walk away, and they have totally different recollections of what was going on in that environment. And it's because we do it by how we were, what we were learned as a child, and all these different things, right? And what our beliefs about the world are. And so I like to say, like, if there are two people sitting in a car in the back seat, neither one of them are driving, they're just looking around, but they're both looking on the same side of the road and they're going down. The one who feels like the world is a beautiful place, I'm glad to be here, life is fun, life is easy, they're going to see all the beautiful blooms on these bushes. They're going to see the way the clouds look. They're going to see the toys in the yard. They're going to see all those things, right? Same side of the road. The other guy feels like the world is out to get them. They're the victim. Why does all this happen to me? They're just, that's how they feel. When
Right.
they're looking, they don't see the blooms on those trees. They see the fact that they need to be trimmed. They see the dilapidated house. They see that some of those toys are broken. They see the dead animal on the side of the road. Same thing, but they only see the ones that are off, the things that are
Mm.
off, because that's how they feel. And we go through life interpreting like everybody sees the same things we do, but that is not true.
No, no.
And so it is just understanding that. I put so much value in our mindset because in order to change that out there, you change this here. And then suddenly when you're looking out that window, you're seeing the blooms, you're seeing the good things, right? And I, for one, want to see the good. I don't watch the news because I figure if I can't actually change it and it's not affecting me in the moment, why bother my brain with that information? Now, there are people that are probably listening right now that are going to say, oh my gosh, that's Pollyanna head in the sand thing. No, no. It is preserving that 2,000 bits of information so that as I'm going through life, I'm seeing good. And the more you see that is good, the more good that comes. And that's just how that feels to me, right?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. That's why when we say we all live in the same reality, well, actually, no, everybody lives in their own
That's
reality.
right.
And yes, because our mind makes, what we believe in and what we see our own reality. And as you
Hmm.
said, it's different from person to person.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've been trying to explain this to, for example, to my husband because he does not understand how I am not interested in like the bad news or and he would tell me, but you need to know what is going on so that you can get prepared, in case something happens. And I always ask him, how will this piece of information help me right now improve my life and improve my experience of life? It can't. It
Yeah.
doesn't.
Yeah.
It so why bother? If there's a crisis that I need to resolve, I will resolve it at the moment,
Yeah.
when I face it.
Yeah.
But why keep bothering, overloading my system, my mind with something that makes me feel miserable, stresses me out, makes me nervous? There's no point. As
Yeah.
you said, we need to be preserving our energy and our capacity to process information that's actually serving and empowering us to bring the best of us in this world.
Yeah. Yeah. Like my story earlier when I had that little anxiety in the morning and then another
Mm.
anxiety thing happened. So if you're looking at the news all the time and you've got this anxiety happening, then the next thing that comes up is not bliss and heaven, it's anxiety. The more you watch all of that stuff and you absorb what people are trying to fill you with, then the more anxiety you're going to feel because the only vibration that that is going to attract is more
It's more of
things
it.
to mirror that feeling. And I love, many years ago I didn't know that. So I would go down the rabbit hole of despair and I would stay there and stay there and stay there and stay there, right? Why does this always happen to me? Why does it and when I finally woke up a little bit and learned this stuff, I thought, holy crap, I was doing it to myself, you know?
Mm,
And so it's hard for a lot of people to take ownership of because they want it to be somebody else's fault. They want it to be able to
yeah,
blame something on somebody else. And um, and bad things happen in the world, but our job is to filter it through. How does
hmm,
this make me better? How can I take that information and learn something from it? But it's the
yeah,
emotional charge around things that really, really mess up our vibration. So I like to think, um, we're emitting, it's like we're emitting this vibration around us, and it's a bad vibration. So we've been watching too much of the news and all that stuff. So the vibration is just there, and it reaches out to where our hands touch, right? It's at least there,
Hmm.
but it actually goes out further. And the thing is that it's almost like this force field that says something good's coming in. Whoop, it's going to stop at the end of that force field and say, well, that's not the energy she's got right now. So we gotta go over here. And
Mm.
so we really want to um, honor ourselves and what we're feeling in the moment, because
Yes.
that's really a mirror of what's going to be start coming. And what is it? I listen to a lot of Abraham Hicks. Are you familiar with Abraham Hicks?
I've heard of
Okay,
it.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, you would love her. But anyway, um, one of the things that she says is that when you think a thought, you have 17 seconds to change it if it's a negative kind of thought, because that's before the momentum gets going. And so the trick is to start catching yourself as soon as that thought hits and
Mm.
recognizing it, because years ago, before I knew a lot of this stuff, like I said, I would go on this bandwagon of this one thought and by the time I even realized I was thinking something that was off, all kinds of things had happened. But now it's like I can catch it so much quicker so that I can turn it around and have a better day. And I would love that for everybody. So it's like if your day is pissy, to put a word in, then all you have to do is start changing your thoughts. Now, it's not instantaneous depending on how long you've been in that pissy thought, right? But
Yeah.
if you don't want to have a pissy day tomorrow, you take care of it today.
I totally agree. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And it does take time to get into the habit of catching
Hmm.
these thoughts as they arise, or at least as soon as you get the bandwidth to notice them, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
sometimes you will be so into them or so into the everyday stuff that you just don't notice what goes through your mind.
Yeah.
But with some training and with some help, anybody can absolutely learn how to catch these thoughts as they arise and convert them into something that's really serving them.
Yeah. Yeah. So I want to ask you, because I know we've gone on a total tangent on all kinds of stuff, but I will put a link in the comments for people to grab your book. And so go ahead and tell them what the title of the book is.
Yep. So the book is Unleash Your Inner Money Goddess, Ancient Female Wisdom for Modern Wealth. And it is available on Amazon for anyone who has Kindle Unlimited. You can go ahead and download it and read it for free. And yeah, otherwise you can just grab a copy. It's also available in paperback. That's a funny story. I had a few people read it in the e-version,
Hmm.
and they would all go, "I want this in paper." Well, like, why? You just read it, it's the same story. No, I want to have this with me at all times. I want to have it at, my nightstand. Like, okay.
Ooh,
So
that feels
there,
good, doesn't it?
yeah, and so that made me also, offer the book as paperback for anyone who would prefer, just
Well,
going
see,
through the pages.
I
Yeah,
love an ebook, but I love paperback
the
or
feel,
a
yeah,
hardback. I love a physical book because something about the smell of a book and the feel of the pages. I love to be able to highlight things or write in the margins. And I know you can do that on your ebook too, but
it's not
there's
the
a
same.
physical gratification of having a highlighter and putting it on the
Yeah.
paper. Um, and what I love too is that I've got books on my shelves that I've read multiple times. And the funny thing is, and it'll probably happen with yours too, because I'll probably get the physical book, um, is that I'll highlight something and later on I come back and read it again. I've changed. that highlight part, it's like, oh, why did I think that was so important? Now it's this. So then, and that eventually I'll have the whole thing highlighted because every time I come back, right? But there's just something gratifying about that because when you have the physical book, you can just, I don't know, it's almost like the feel of it has an energy that's different. I don't know.
Yeah, there are actually I think physiological studies that connect the feeling, the using of your hands to write with the brain activity and establishing these neural paths
Yeah.
that help the brain evolve and get better and better. So yes, getting the physical, even if it's writing, it's one thing to type on your computer. It's completely different thing to type your goals, for example, for the year on paper, because this way the information gets really ingrained in the mind
Yeah.
as opposed to just seeing it on a computer screen. So
Yeah.
there's a lot to it.
Yeah, like I said, I'm a fan of a book. Well, you can't see it really, but I've got bookshelves all over here, and then I've got some in another room, and there's always at least two or three books on my nightstand that I'm reading, and so yeah, but
Same
so
here.
yeah, yeah, we're kindred spirits in that, right?
We are.
So, what are you, as you were writing this book? What was it that you were hoping that people would take from it?
Yeah. Well, first, I want to emphasize that it didn't feel like writing the book. To me,
Uh,
it was a divine coincidence of two events that just resulted in this book being
ooh,
unleashed.
do tell, do tell.
Actually, I tell the story in the very introduction of the book, and everyone can read it because on Amazon you can view, the first few pages. So the story is really beautiful. Okay, I'll tell it. Um, because because every time I tell it, I keep getting amazed at the synchronicity of events and how they bring about this thing, which in this particular case is a book that got born.
Hmm.
So I was attending this financial seminar. It was a 2-day seminar. I attended it online. And one of my favorite authors, Morgan Housel, who wrote The Psychology of Money, which is like my favorite book on money because it doesn't talk about financial strategies. It talks about the psychology behind getting rich, being rich, staying rich, and wealthy.
Hmm.
So he was a guest speaker, and I was super excited to see him on stage, even if it's online. And he goes on and he talks about money using personal stories,
Hmm.
using storytelling. And then I think to myself, well, that's the way you're supposed to speak about money and finances, especially to women, because most of us feel like we're not good with numbers, we're not good with math, money, we're not good with money at all. So that's like a logical next thought, which is erroneous, but let's put that on the side. But yeah, I was thinking, yes, we should talk about money in stories and just extrapolating the lessons and making them financial lessons. So that's one thing. At the very same time that I'm attending this seminar, I was reading Carol Pearson's book, Persephone Rising, which had a lot to talk about gods and goddess archetypes and how we as modern people embody these characteristics and these personality traits. And I've always been in love with mythology ever since I was a little kid. I knew all the Greek myths. I knew pretty much, I would say like 80% of ancient Egyptian myths. And I loved their gods and goddesses and all the pantheon. And when I saw the book and I was attending this seminar, and these two things just coincided so powerfully. The thought of I need to be talking about money in in story form. And then on the other side come these gods and goddesses, and like boom, there you have it. That's
It's
how
like the Big
you
Bang.
need. Absolutely. It was like a divine download. There you go. Like universe is giving it. There you go. This is what you need to do. I'm like, okay. That was such an obvious sign. Okay. So from that moment on, it took me about a month to research the goddesses that I want to speak about, to describe their story, their myth, their personality, and the financial lessons that we can extrapolate, and then also add, some practices and some rituals that we can do to embody these archetypes within us and bring those characteristics in us, let them rise, let ourselves rise with them. So the book got born in about a month. As I said,
Mm,
it got born. I didn't write it, because it felt just like a calling that, this needs to be put in some shape and form, and this is the shape and form that it came into. So yeah, that
beautiful,
was how
beautiful.
yeah.
Yeah. So what were you hoping that women would get
Yeah.
from this book?
My biggest hope is for women to start thinking, at least allow themselves to think that there is a way to get from being totally confused, frustrated around the topic of money, to gaining the clarity and the confidence that you need to manage it and to reclaim your power over your own finances. And working with these goddess archetypes is a wonderful way to do it in a more feminine and a more aligned, natural way.
Yeah.
That's what my biggest hope is.
Well, I believe that it's happening. I just from the little bit that I read, it just felt it resonated. It felt really good. It was really aligning with a lot of the things that I teach, and I haven't even gotten that far into it. So I can't wait to pull out and see how I can use what you're teaching to help me even more. So I'm really, really excited about diving in. And thank you for sharing that book with me. That was very sweet. But like I said, I'll probably be going in and ordering the book. And so
Thank
for
you.
anybody that's watching and listening, you're definitely going to want to get the book. And so there will be a link in the show notes that you can grab it and get it for yourself, whether you get the digital or you get the physical copy, whatever floats your boat, right? But this has been so good, and I'm probably going to want to have you on again because we were only able to scratch the
Yeah.
surface, right? With your knowledge. And so I'm hoping that we can stay connected because the energy that I feel from you, it just feels like it would be a compatible companionship, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm super excited to have met you, Vicky, and it has been definitely a pleasure. So I want to remind everybody to remember to like, subscribe, share, order the book, and then in the show notes, you'll be able to check out some of the things that I have available. And I will get you in touch with how to connect with Vicky. Do you want to go ahead and give them really quick, people that may not have time to go look at the show notes, how can they connect with you?
Well, one way to connect with me is on Facebook. I'm from that Facebook generation, people, not on Instagram, not on Pinterest. That's not my thing. But I'm on Facebook. If you search for Victoria Chervenkova, you could find that, or you can just land on my website. It's evemma.eu. That's EVEMMA.eu. That it's named after my two daughters, so it's not
Aw, aw. See, we didn't even get into the family stuff. So we'll have to,
right.
well,
There's so much more we can
I
talk about.
know, I
Yeah.
know. So just know everybody, she'll be back. She'll be back.
I promise. I would love to. I would absolutely love it.
All right, wonderful. All right, guys. So it has been great seeing you, and I love each and every one of you. And remember, once again, do me a solid, like, subscribe, and share. Mwah.
Thank you.